Good afternoon and welcome. It's Thursday, so it's time for another edition of Wizard's World. Today, Karen Wong from Globus family of brands will be highlighting some popular trips throughout North America, as well as go over some changes that have taken place since COVID. If you have any questions during the presentation, please post them in the chat and we will try to answer as many as possible at the end. I'm now going to let Karen take over and introduce you to some beautiful tours in North America. Go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Dominique. So, as she mentioned, this is Karen. I'm with Globus. I'm here in Northern California, and I want to welcome everyone. I'm going to collapse the screen too, so we can see what we're looking at. And today, we do have a few things that we're going to cover. So we will talk about our peace of mind plan. Everybody needs a peace of mind plan, no matter what it is, whether it's travel or it has anything else to do in our lives these days. We're going to be focusing on North America. We'll be talking about the travel protocols and procedures that are in place now. And we'll also be talking about something called reservation acknowledgement. We call it the check-in program. And it is a new required procedure. So let's get started. Just a little bit of background about Globus, family of brands. We are Globus. Cosmos, Monograms, and Avalon. We started over 90 years ago, 1928, and two cousins actually carried mail across Lake Lugano from Switzerland to Italy. And one of the cousins said, you know, we probably should take some people over there and show them some of the sights in Italy. And that's when everything began, and we decided we'd start with the Globus product, where we'd have a tour director, and we'd have some touring and places to stay, and we'd take everybody together on a coach or on a stretch limo. So we think we were one of the first to think of everybody traveling together, right? So this is one of the first coaches back in 1928, and we did quite a few tours. And then in 1955, the other cousin decided to start a program, and it was called Cosmos. It mirrors Globus. The difference between the two is Globus attracts mostly North Americans, and Cosmos attracts mostly people from other parts of the world. And then we started our Monograms program, and that was done about 17 years ago, along with Avalon Waterways. Monograms, also a land program, is mainly an independent, no tour director. You're basically on your own, but it does have a host in each city that you're in. And Avalon Waterways is the river cruise program. So let's first talk about, because today we're going to talk mostly about land programs. So let's just talk about our on-trip assurance program. This is one of the protocols, safety protocols that we're looking at. We want a safe and warm welcome, meaning that say you're coming off of the plane, you're at the airport, you're joining our coach to take a transfer to the hotel. Before you go on to the coach itself, we will take temperature readings. And of course, they're not invasive. And then we will also wipe down all luggage going onto the coach. It will all be sanitized. That'll be handled by our driver, our tour director, and our crew that are there, who, before they were assigned to your departure, had to submit all of their health documentation. And we had to accept it before we would give them a specific departure that they could work. So your luggage goes on board, so it's a safe, warm welcome. We take you to the hotels. The hotels have their protocols that they will follow when they're there as well. So social distancing when you're on a coach. When you're on a coach, we want to make sure that we're in line with whatever the requirements are. Right now, it's 6-foot distancing. So you could easily have, on a coach of 44, you could easily have 24 people on there, just to keep that social distancing in there. That's one of the things that could happen. But it's really up to whatever the times are when you're traveling. We focus on the guest and team member health, which I mentioned before. So don't forget to bring your masks. That's a really important part. You can rinse them out or sanitize them yourself, or you can bring throwaway, masks, single-use type. We will also have masks available for you. We will also have sanitizing materials on board the coaches. Touching hearts, not hands means that there are no self-service or buffets. That means that there are all menu and table service meals. Continuing our commitment to clean, we sanitize after each tour. Say you're on a tour that day, you do a morning tour, then the coaches sanitize for the afternoon tour. We do a deep cleaning between each departure. So we look to you as being our partners in discovery and also in health. Let's get started. We're going to talk about North America today. So our first itinerary has to do with, I'm going to be showing you a few itineraries, not a lot, just a few, with some of the things that I think are kind of interesting. Maybe you haven't had a chance to do, maybe you've thought about it, and one of them is exploring America's great parks. And this one takes in about 12 or 13 parks and canyon lands. And when you think about it, if you had to do all the logistics from doing the hotels, make sure you're arriving at the right times, that you're stopping at the right locations, vista points for photographs, that your meals are all set up and whatever, well, Globus takes care of that. Plus the fact you'll have local hosts that will talk to you about the areas you're in. So for the Grand Canyon, you would. For Custer State Park, you would. All the different major places, you would have somebody local talking to you about the area, giving you some history of the area itself. This one starts in Las Vegas, ends in Las Vegas, and I believe it's like 16 days. And just think if you had to drive all of this. Do you really want to drive it? Or do you want to take some time with your family? This is a great one for cross-generation, grandparents, parents, grandchildren to travel on and take this trip together, and taking all those wonderful pictures, of course, together as well. So Grand Canyon in 2019 celebrated its 100th anniversary, its centennial. We have on Globus something called local favorites. Mind you, Mount Rushmore is not a local favorite. It's considered, it's part of the program. It's included, so you'll be visiting Mount Rushmore. I will be making reference to this in a little bit again. This is a local favorite, and it's a drive on a four-wheel drive that you can go out on with a Navajo guide through Monument Valley. You'll also have a chance to go to a chuck wagon cookout, and also to a buffalo safari. These are all included in the program, and the last three I mentioned are local favorites. So on Globus, we do offer local favorites, meaning that you have some kind of interaction, some kind of activity that is unique to the area, something that we like to include that makes it very unique. And the buffalo safari is really important to this program. You have to remember the last two migrations in the world were buffalo, and then there's still, and it's no longer, but then there's the one last one, which is in Africa, which is the wildebeest. So this was the second to the last major migration in the world. One of the other areas you're going to be seeing is Crazy Horse Memorial, which is over here in the upper right-hand corner. And I mentioned Mount Rushmore. And if you look at the height of the heads in Mount Rushmore of, say, Teddy Roosevelt, it's 60 feet high. But if you look at Crazy Horse, it's 87.5 feet high. It's massive to have the extra 27 feet. The difference between the two is Mount Rushmore is complete. Crazy Horse is a privately funded memorial, so it's been taking years to be completed, but there is hope that it will be complete in the next few years. You'll also be going to Deadwood, to the Tatanka area, so you'll see and learn about the story of the bison. And the Tatanka area really came into its own when there was a movie called Dances with Wolves with Kevin Costner. And he's the one, he was the driving force to make this happen, to bring the story of the bison forward for everybody to see. You'll also be going to Custer State Park, which is where the bison safari is located. And that is the second largest park in the US. You'll be going to the Buffalo Bill Center in Cody, and you'll see all the historic monuments and the buildings of the area from the days of Wild Bill and Annie Oakley. So let's move on to our next program, and this one's kind of fun. This is actually one of our really popular ones for 2021. It's a new one that we put together, and in an area that's a little bit different for us. We call it Bourbon Bridals and Bluegrass. So it's a real different take on Americana. And yes, we're going to be in horse country. So let's look at the itinerary real quick. So we're going to start in Louisville. You know, anything we do when you look at the maps is going to be a green circle. If you see a number in any circle, no matter what color it is, that means the number of nights you're going to spend there. So on this one, we're going to spend the first night in Louisville. We're going into horse country. We're going to make our way over to Asheville for a couple of nights. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then through Chattanooga and into Nashville for the last night. So I did mention local favorites here, and what's important is, yes, we're going to have bourbon tasting. And this particular distillery was owned by a Colonel Edmund Haynes Taylor Jr. He was a descendant of James Madison and Zachary Taylor, and he is considered the father of modern bourbon industry. And the reason for that is he set the standards for how bourbon was to be made and distilled and served as well. So you'll have a chance for a tasting. You're going to have a taste of Kentucky while you're here too. And that would include what is referred to locally as a hot brown sandwich. Or it's also called a Louisville hot brown or a Kentucky hot brown. Basically, it's a takeoff on Welsh rarebit. So it's like a cheese sandwich, a grilled type cheese sandwich. Some of you may have tasted spoon bread before. That's what's down here in the lower one. And spoon bread, of course, is a fluffy cornbread. So you'll have a taste of the South here. Now, I mentioned something about the horses. Yes, you're going to be going to the Old Friends Retirement Center. It's the Equine Center. And the Old Friends Equine Center is where this picture was taken. And it was started in about 2002 with about 6 acres, 3 to 6 acres of land. It's become so popular that it has expanded to 243 acres now, with a satellite location in upstate New York. They do accommodate, majority of them are rescue horses, but they also have a few championship horses, and tourism has really helped to sustain them. So we hope to get back there and to continue to support them as much as possible. And then continuing on with this program, we went through this. I'm going to look at local favorites again. Anybody know where this is? Most people say it's in France. Well, it's the Biltmore Estate, and the Biltmore Estate is in Asheville, and you'll have a lunch here, which will be your local favorite. And Biltmore Estate is a national landmark, and it's considered America's largest home. So you'll have a farm-to-table lunch in the village area called Antler Hill Village Restaurant. That's where you'll be. You'll have a chance to tour throughout the Biltmore Estate. It's about 180,000 interior square feet. It includes 35 bedrooms, 43 bathrooms, 65 fireplaces. It's 250 rooms. That's a lot of social distancing, I'd say. And a lot of people say, well, who built it? Of course, it's Cornelius Vanderbilt. And, you know, he made all of his money in ferries, steamship lines, railroads, and stock manipulations. He ultimately lost the majority of the monies, but we think of Vanderbilt University, we think of the breakers, and he was very big in bringing in the Gilded Age. And the Gilded Age in the East Coast in the US was about the 1870s to about the 1900s. And that's when American wages really grew higher than those in Europe. So everybody was coming over here. But in talking about local favorites, if we were going somewhere else, for instance, if we were doing the Lost Canyons of the Southwest, so you're doing some canyon areas there. That goes from Phoenix to Las Vegas. We'd be on the Verity Canyon Railroad. So that's another local favorite. But for this one, It's the Biltmore Estate. And we're going to look at one more, I think, at this point, and before we move on to something else, one more itinerary. It's a short one, but it's Route 66. And Route 66, I love talking about that. It covers 8 states, 3 time zones. It covers 2,448 miles, to be exact. It goes from Chicago to LA, if you're familiar with the song or you're familiar with the movie. Or not the movie, the TV program. And what are some of the other nicknames for Route 66? Anybody know? The Mother Road, the Main Street of America, Will Rogers Highway. Now, the reason why I did this one is, and I have Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, is I say go to do this in September because the timing is right. It's on our Cosmos program. Remember I mentioned we did Globus. Those are the first 2 we talked about. This one is Cosmos, and they will be celebrating their 50th anniversary in Albuquerque at the Balloon Fiesta in 2021, and it is in September. So if you our departures in September, that includes that particular visit. So this would be a great time to see it. So you can see we have downtown Chicago here. Some of the things that you'll see, you'll start with the Hall of Fame, which is in Pontiac, Illinois. Of course, you're going to go through the Arch, as well as onto Amarillo, Texas, and the Cadillac Park. There are 10 of them on end. You can see them from the road, and they're full of all kinds of, some people call it graffiti, other people call it art. I think it's just great fun Americana art to see. So you'll have a chance to visit the Cadillac Museum. And then when you get to Barstow, you're going to come into the Route 66 Museum. Now remember, you started at the Hall of Fame and you're going to end up at the museum when you get to the West Coast. So it goes from Chicago to LA, right? And then, of course, you're going to hit a canyon as you're coming back through Zion National Park. And here's just a shot of the Fiesta. It's absolutely gorgeous. Another time to see it is in the evening. I've seen it a couple of times, but you want to see it in the morning when the ascension takes place, when it goes up. It's absolutely beautiful. The skies are so clear and great place to take pictures. And a memorable time because it will be, as I say, their 50th anniversary in 2021. So, yep, we've been in a layover for since about March 15th. Is that about when it all happened and started? I think so. And so we, put pen to paper and made some modifications, and I'm going to share a couple of those with you now. For instance, to accommodate that trip for parents, grandparents, and children, we've lowered the age to age 5, and that's for all Globus and Cosmos around the world, except in Africa, depending upon the lodge. Certain lodges still want children to be 12 years old. Otherwise, this applies worldwide. So it's a great time to be taking the family. And we've also introduced what we call a guest check-in. Now, the guest check-in, that word, that phrase, is being renamed. It's an acknowledgement program. And so what does this mean that you have to do? Well, once you make a reservation through with one of the travel wizards at Travel Wizard, you would then be sent an email or be sent to your agent. They'll send it to you, and you're going to have to do a few things. And this is on the front end, whether you made a deposit or not. And so the reservation would come to you. You'd have to verify the spelling of your name and be sure that your name is complete and shows correct as per your government issued ID. Notification, we need to know the emergency contact on the front end of the reservation. The third step is acknowledgement. That means you're going to scroll through that page. You know how you do this for everything else you sign up for online. You scroll through the page of terms and conditions to the bottom of the page. There'll be a little square that you'll check, signifying your e-signature. And then at the bottom, it'll have a little bar that says submit, and you submit it online. So this is a must. There isn't any way around it. It is part of the reservation process. Just to give you a heads up on this is really important. It's really what prompted this, of course, is the COVID situation. COVID-19 situation. Prior to this, we never really did that because we knew it was understood that once you made a deposit, your travel wizard made you aware of all the terms and conditions of the program. This time, we do request that the guest does this particular procedure to ensure that we at Globus Family of Brands are aware that you've read and acknowledged the terms and conditions. So let's go on to one more itinerary. This is for Alaska, and this is for 21 or 22 in February for the Iditarod. And for the Iditarod, you'll have a chance to obviously have tickets to go to the race itself. This is a picture that actually happened this year in 2020. So truly, it happened in February before everything kind of blew up. So you're going to be starting in Fairbanks with a couple of nights here. You'll be on the Alaska Railroad going from Fairbanks to Talkeetna, and you'll be seeing Denali, which is also known as Mount McKinley. And then working your way down, you're going to go through to Anchorage. And Anchorage is basically going to be your anchor. You're going to spend 2 nights on the front end. You go back up through Seward, a couple of nights in Girdwood, and then 4 nights in Anchorage itself. So some of the things you're going to be doing, this is the Alaska Railroad here, and just a shot from this year's Iditarod. So some of the things, there's so many things going on in this one, and a lot of local favorites. This is Martin Booser that you're looking at here with his dogs. Martin Booser has won the Iditarod 4 times, and he has his Happy Trails kennels that you'll have a chance to visit when you're there. And you'll see how the dogs are trained, how they're developed to be racing dogs for the Iditarod. You can see that it's an 11-day, 10-night program. And some of the things that I like to point out, besides Iditarod, you're going to be going to the Mushers Banquet. And at the Mushers Banquet, you'll have a chance to see the drawings for the starts. There's the false start. I call it the false start. It's really the photo op start. And then there's the actual start. So you'll see where the drivers are basically, the mushers are basically drawing for their starting points. Excuse me. You'll also have a chance to go to the Winter Festival, which is considered the largest in North America due to the timing of this in February. You'll also be going to see, most likely, the Northern Lights. You'll have 2 entrances to go to the Northern Lights that will take you in closer. And I did mention the Alaska Railroad here. So, and you're also going to, you'll probably see the Alaska Pipeline, the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. So there's a lot of, all of these items here are included, no additional cost, of course. And as I mentioned before, this is a local favorite here with Happy Trails. And then, of course, the Northern Lights itself. North to the future. North to the future is the motto of the state of Alaska. And I just wanted to put that in there. So you'll have a very good chance to see it because of the time of year being in February, it's still very dark and you're as far north almost as you can get to be there and see it itself. So a lot to take in, a very short period of time, but great planning on that. So we take care of all those details for you. If you want to read up on something a little bit different, I always like to, once in a while, you put a movie in, a book in, and this, of course, Mishner had the book called Alaska. He also has another book called Klondike, but I'm zeroing in on Alaska here. The Klondike one also would be the follow-up to this. So you know how it is when you read a James Mishner book, it's like getting a full education about an area. So I share that with you. Just some other ideas. I mentioned the Alaska Railroad, right? And some of the things that you can do here. I have also mentioned your lower left, the Rail Gorge Railway. We do a lot of programs with rail. And I just sort of pulled out a quote from Edna St. Vincent Millay, "There isn't a train I wouldn't take." So then the other one would be the Durango Narrow Gauge Railroad. I mentioned that earlier. And then over here would be the Canadienne. That would be on Via Rail. And you could take that from Edmonton to Toronto. And then you also have the Rocky Mountaineer. We have all of these available. You just have to ask your travel wizard at Travel Wizards to help you with the details. So there's no place like home, right? No place like home. There's so much to see here, so much to do, and a great opportunity to take it in. I just want to share one thing with you, and that is next week we are starting our first departure on our Globus program through the Canyonlands. And we are sold out for the 3 departures in November, and the first available will be in February. So we do have some space available for the Canyonlands in February and March if you're interested. But that one is going out in about 7 days. I want to tell you about another program. Remember I mentioned Globus and Cosmos. They have a tour director, it's an escorted, we plan everything out, and you can go on whatever you want. You're not forced to do all of the things that are there, but considering all the areas that we're covering and all the sites to see, it'd be great to be able to do that and take it in a short period of time. We also have something called Monograms. This is the one I was saying is independent travel, where you go somewhere and you try it out as a program. We had these in North America about 3 years ago. We stopped it. And then we decided, let's give it a try off season for this year. And we picked 4 cities to do this in. And it's starting this November to March. So we are doing Nashville, we're doing San Diego in the upper right-hand corner, lower left is New Orleans, and we're doing San Francisco. And what they are 3 and 4 night programs. You would have your hotel, breakfast daily included. You would have the app, the Monograms Go app. I'm going to tell you about the apps in a sec. And that would help you with all your local directions for where you wanted to go, shopping, with restaurants, price ranges, reservations, museums, how to get from point A to point B, all of that's available to you. So you have all of that for you, plus you have a local host in each of these cities who will be at the hotel. So we're using a single hotel in each of the cities as we try this out and bring it back. And for instance, San Francisco, we're using the major Marriott that's there. And we're also going to have a walking tour of each city included on day 2. So just something, and the rest of the time you're on your own. You can do whatever you want. If you want your local host to give you recommendations, they can do that. If you want your local host to get you theater tickets, hopefully theater's open. If you want your local host to make dinner reservations or lunch reservations or suggestions, they can do that as well. If you need directions on how to take public transportation or where to go, or where's the best place to catch a cab to go somewhere, they can help you with that as well. So the countdown starts now, and this is kind of important because at the 21 to 14 day period, that's when documents become available. You know, the documents, you used to get a little book and you get a baggage tag, etc. Well, everything's gone electronic. So we are now going strictly electronic. So at Travel Wizards, they will have your documentation available. It's delivered to them via email. They can send it to you via email. They can print it for you. They can go over it with you. But there's one other way to do it, and that is to look on your phone. And when you look on your phone, at this time frame between 21 and 14 days, you can go and look at the App Store on your phone. Click on that, look for the Go app. You'll see this Go right here like that. You'll click on that, you want to download it to your phone, and that will have all your information. Oh, wait a minute, you have to be able to get into it, right? Oh, you got to go back to the Travel Wizards, and you ask your wizard for your booking number. So your access is last name, first name, booking number, and then it will bring up your specific itinerary for your trip. And you would use that. And they will help you through it. If you have any questions about it, be sure to ask any of the agents at Travel Wizards. The other thing to remember that's really important, you're on your own when this is going to be available for Globus, Cosmos, Monograms. You can use it on all 3. Globus and Cosmos, you're going to have probably a few other people with you. You're probably going to have a tour director. You're probably going to have a local host or a local guide there. So you have people for point of reference. Or if you're like you are on Monograms, you might go off wandering by yourself and all of a sudden go, oh, I think I made a wrong turn. How do I get back to my hotel? Well, if you look on your Go app, you'll probably see a little pillow, and you'll tap on that pillow, and it will give you walking directions back to your hotel. I know your question is, what about internet access? Do I have to have internet access? No, this operates the same as Waze. And I know we all use Waze. It's push technology. All the information is pushed out to you. You're not sending emails on this, okay? So on that app, you'll be sending them through your regular phone if you're home domestically in the US. And so that will give you an opportunity to do that. But you'll have this as your main tool when you're traveling. Good point of reference, places to see, things to do, and just to have local maps of where you are. We are a green company. We have been for more years than I've been here, and I'm starting my 15th year here. And so as you can see, we did it here. We went from paper to electronic to now on your telephone. Another thing we've done is we've done away with single-use plastic. So I'll tell you about that in a second. So those bottles that we used to give out with water, bring your own swell bottles now, or whatever. At the 7-day period, you'll be receiving the pre-trip health screening, if we're still within the COVID period. And that will remind you of what to bring, things to plan for, and in the last 14 days, have you had any of these symptoms? So you'll receive this. I will be sending this off to Travel Wizards. They will have a copy of this. They'll have a copy of the procedures and protocols for land tours as well. So they'll have that information available for you. So what do you bring on supplies and reminders, etc.? So you're going to bring your masks, right? We will have masks, but you probably want to bring your own masks as well. And you're going to also bring your own water bottles. And if you're in Northern California, you go through San Francisco Airport, you know they don't sell any plastic water bottles anyway, so you're going to have the metal ones that you can reuse. So along with sanitizers that we'll have available on board the coaches, we're also going to have water refills as well. So that gives you just couple more little things to pack. Why would you book with a travel agent? Why would you not now? There's so many things going on, so much information going in so many directions. So just taking one page out of the book, you need help to avoid the stress and travel worries, and you need health and safety assurances, and they can help you with that. So there are also skilled navigators and interpreters of the internet, so they can help you with additional information. Sometimes some of the language that's presented, whether it's by the State Department, the CDC, or wherever, can be a little obtuse and can be translated differently, so they can be your specific interpreters as to where you're going. Time for a drink, right? Time for Manhattan. We're still in the US. So just to recap, this is the recap. Let's talk about our in-season. In-season is anytime between May and October. And this is the multi-cities with a tour director, the Globus and Cosmos. So we did Exploring America's Great Parks. That was from Las Vegas to Las Vegas. We started and we ended. And then we had our Bourbon Bridals and Bluegrass. We started in Louisville, we ended in Nashville. Our Route 66 with the 50th anniversary balloon fiesta started in Chicago and ended in LA. And then also our Alaska's Iditarod, which is in February, starting in Fairbanks and ending in Anchorage. We also talked about the off-season program. What was that? November to March, and they were single cities with local hosts. And those included Nashville, San Diego, San Francisco, and New Orleans. So that's just a recap of what we saw as far as destination goes. So let's look at some of the discounts that you can get for next year. And 10% off for Globus and $100 off per person on the Cosmos, same for Monograms. And then all for North America. And then we're doing discounts on Avalon Waterways. I might as well share that one too, since we're doing all of the programs. You can see at the bottom that Globus family of brands is four products. All of these products were not under another name. They did not belong to another company. Our family, the Montegaza family, who started our company in 1928, we are still a private corporation. We're still headquartered in Switzerland. It's Lugano, Switzerland. And it's the fourth generation that's taken over. All products have been organically developed. So we own these products from day one. So just as an idea, so we did not do sort of a Microsoft business model, buy a company and put it under the umbrella. No, ours were all developed on our own. So there we go with that one. And then our call to action, you call Travel Wizards to talk to a travel wizard. And you know it's on Primrose Road and the telephone numbers, and they are open, shorter hours, but everybody's shorter hours these days, and mainly by appointment because you want to space everybody out for that social distancing. And with that, we are caring for places around the world, and very important to us that we have a smaller environmental footprint. I mentioned we did away with plastic, single plastic use. We also are a great believer, we maintain a policy of leave only footprints and take only photos. That's our sustainable travel. This is part of the plastic. We don't use single plastic. It's part of the ocean cleanup program. We give a lot of money to that. And then most important to all of us here in Northern California is if you take any program with us on the Go Parks program or any of our North American programs, we do give money back for every passenger that travels with us to the Wildland Firefighter Foundation to help the firefighters as well as their families. So with that, I thank you. And some of our friends are out there just waiting for you. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Let Jim know.
Well, thank you, Karen. That was very informative. Love the itineraries. You definitely cover a lot of ground when you go on these itineraries. Lots to take in. Those national parks look fabulous as you take the Western, I guess it's almost like the Western Rockies there. And then, of course, you know, the last frontier in the United States, Alaska. And then, of course, you know, some of where it all started in the Bourbon trip down into Nashville, which is a beautiful area too. So, and then of course the iconic Route 66. Thank you very much for showing those itineraries. I really want to point out how your local favorites, I think, is just fabulous. I mean, it really gives you the flavor as opposed to some of these other tours that maybe, you know, just hit the highlights. You go deep into some of the, you know, off the beaten path stuff for the local favorites. I think that's fabulous. So well, thank you for having that particular product as well. I don't see anything in the chat at this stage of the game. So if anybody has any questions, if you could just please put them in there quickly for Karen and we'll get them answered tonight. Or if you happen to remember something in a half hour or tomorrow morning or next week or whenever, please reach out to one of us wizards at Travel Wizards and we will get a hold of Karen and get that question answered for you. Well, we'll wait just another couple minutes, but it doesn't look like anybody's putting anything in the chat now. Karen, is there anything else you wanted to add before we signed off?
Well, now that your travelers are seeing me, they're probably wondering, where am I? And my background is actually in Florence, Italy, and that's that tour I was telling you about on Monograms, you know, how we take a walking tour. This gentleman is our tour guide, local tour guide, and I happen to be on this one. We had about 6 or 8 people on the tour. They're usually very small groups, so, and it's just outside of the Duomo in Florence. Thank you, Jim.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for being our guest this evening, as special presenter, and letting us know all about your North America. I do know that you have lots of itineraries throughout the world, but you know, at this stage of the game, since unfortunately Europe is still somewhat closed to us, there are spots, but obviously pretty restrictions, and we couldn't talk about your Avalon product, which is very nice as well because the rivers aren't open in Europe as much. But so maybe down the line, we'll have you back and have you talk about that stuff.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to check out right now, so I'll leave you with your customers. Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye, and thank you, everybody, for attending. We will see you next